Hello and welcome to Cafe DC. I'm Faiz Rahman. Our guest today is Professor Madhiya Afzal, who is a professor at a nearby university, University of Maryland. And her subject is actually is very critical and very important and interesting as well. Radicalization in Pakistani schools and the curriculum that's been used in those schools. Welcome, Professor Madhiya Afzal.
Thank you.
Good to have you here on Cafe DC. So we'll just get right into this topic and, the horrific massacre that, that we're all being so kind of, shocked to see in Pakistan. And it somehow, directly or indirectly, it does relate to your work, radicalization in Pakistani schools, especially religious schools. So tell us first about that background, please.
So relating to my work, I've been working on understanding the official curriculum in Pakistan for quite a while now. So it's been a few years, so this project has been ongoing. So I'm not looking at madrasas, and I'm not actually looking at the private schools that cater to the elite in terms of the British O-levels, A-levels based system. So I'm focused solely on the official curriculum, through which you take the matriculation exams, the FA exams, and so on. And in trying to understand, the common perception is that more education will lead to sort of better views on a whole host of things, right? And less radicalization. And so people, the common perception is...
It ends so unfortunately,
right,
and it's worldwide actually.
Right.
You see a lot of educated people being more ignorant
Exactly.
about other groups and more so self-centered on them and their own ethnicity and their own kind of biradari, so please
Absolutely,
go on. Yes.
Exactly. No, so I wasn't, when I was looking at the link between years of education and attitudes, I wasn't seeing any links between years of education and sort of biased attitudes. And what I really started looking at was the curriculum. What is the curriculum teaching students in schools?
And you're talking about mainstream Pakistani schools.
Mainstream Pakistani schools, government schools, and low-cost private schools. And I've even been to elite private schools that have the official curriculum. So, the students are taking the metric exams. And I focused mainly on high schools because that's where, so basically secondary schools in the Pakistani context, because that's where students are really sort of growing up and forming attitudes. So, ages sort of 13, 14, 15, 16. And the curriculum, and others have sort of written about the fact that Pakistan's curriculum has biases, historical errors, encourages prejudice towards India, towards the rest of the world. Sort of, it's a very one-sided view of history that exists in these, especially in these Pakistan studies textbooks. So I wanted to look deeper and see what, if anything, are the textbooks actually saying that may prompt people to become, to have sort of these views that are biased and views that are, let's say, anti-American, anti-India. And especially in terms of sort of the anti-India, anti-Hindu bit, there is a great deal in our textbooks, So our textbooks sort of will routinely call sort of India and Hindus, pre-partition they'll say Hindus and the British were evil, they conspired against us, and post-partition they'll routinely just refer to India, for instance, as the enemy, without any qualification. And so it's a very one-sided view of history with no critical thinking. Students are memorizing content and they're not really sort of understanding that there are two sides to every story, right? And that.
But Madhiya, this is pretty much a general practice in Pakistan.
Absolutely.
I mean, not just history, about anything.
Yeah.
You did people, and I was born in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I
and
grew
as
up
was
in
I,
Pakistan.
as was I, yes.
And we just don't have that critical thinking, as you pointed
Absolutely.
out, that we accept facts or fiction,
Right.
interchangeably. It could be
Absolutely.
totally fictitious, fiction,
Yeah.
and we just believe it as fact, or sometimes facts as fiction.
Exactly.
So this has been a problem. But going back to your discussion and your subject, there's a mindset in Pakistan. They think, yes, it's their country and they have the right to learn anything that they want to learn about themselves. Anything outside that country doesn't matter, because as long as, and these historical facts or non-facts will help them strengthen their belief in the ideology that they have been believing.
Yeah.
So is it really that severe? Is that kind of chronic? That belief?
No. So the problem, the problem, and sort of it's not simple. I mean, you don't go into these textbooks and say, you don't see the Pakistan Taliban is good, or you don't go into the textbooks and you don't see America is evil and we must fight against America. That's not what exists in these textbooks. So it's much more nuanced. But my point is that the lack of critical thinking, the accepting of authority and memorizing of content, right? So when the teacher says something and when the textbook says something, you must, that is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And then there's no room for another point of view. Sort of the blind accepting of things that certain people in authority say are right. That has sort of created a mindset, whereas now when you see anchors on media, for instance, saying something that is very, very harmful, sort of saying, the terrorists are not coming from Pakistan, they're coming from elsewhere, right? Sort of conspiracy
Even today,
theories.
I mean,
Yes.
after this tragedy,
Yes.
horrific tragedy, people are still pointing fingers outside.
Exactly.
Even they know that, for example, I'm just going to quote
Yes.
Mullah Fazlullah,
Yes.
the radio mullah, as they
Sure.
call him. He's supposed to be in Afghanistan. That's
Sure.
what they think, that he's in Afghanistan. And now they're making links with Afghanistan, India, America, and all the other foreign powers, and not really looking inside.
Absolutely.
Even though, yes, this could be Taliban,
Sure.
but look who is supporting them.
Sure. Exactly.
So by extension, you're also just muddying the waters.
Yeah, exactly. And so when somebody, the schools are basically not doing their job, because once they are sort of letting students believe that, or gearing students into this mindset where, there's sort of this blind acceptance of what somebody in a position of authority says, then when they come home, they switch on the TV and they hear somebody spewing sort of hateful, a hateful sort of narrative that is not true, they'll accept it. Because they don't know, they're never taught, what is a good source of information, what is a bad source of information. They're never actually presented two sources of information and asked to reconcile them. Here, when you go to school, students know how to do research even in elementary school, right? Even in what is primary school in Pakistan, students will be asked to do research on a topic and asked to understand different points of view and different sources of information. In Pakistan, people don't understand that. They think there is one view of history, and that view of history was that Pakistan was victimized.
What's the reason? What's your research says about it?
So the reason is that this is there's sort of multiple reasons. Textbooks weren't like this, and the curriculum was not like this until the 1980s. This wave of Islamization.
After the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan.
And actually, exactly, around then.
That was
but
probably
even before, so even in the late 70s, there was a wave of Islamization that started in Bhutto's time, and it was partly a response to sort of geopolitical sort of pressures, but partly a response to the fact that Bangladesh separated from Pakistan, and Pakistan needed to redefine itself in the context of an ideological state. So the Pakistan ideology, that specific term, which now all our Pakistan studies textbooks start off with, the term Pakistan ideology, that was not born with Pakistan. That was not born in 1947 or before that.
Nazariya Pakistan.
Nazariya Pakistan. That was born, that term came into our textbooks and into the mainstream in the 70s.
So you didn't have it before, like?
You didn't have it before. So the textbooks did not look like this. And so I think the state is trying to, sort of obviously create this kind of religious nationalism in order to define itself. And partly it's because the state wants to divert blame from its internal failures, right? Because once you pin, we're the victims.
I mean, to an extent, it's understandable.
Right, of course.
We get the point. Yes, every state needs to define itself.
Of course, absolutely.
We have Israel, we have
Absolutely.
India, we have Pakistan,
Absolutely.
Afghanistan, even the United States. I mean,
Absolutely.
every state to an extent has this identity issue,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
What it's like to be an American, for
Exactly.
example. We ask this question all the time.
Exactly.
How do you define, an Israeli? How do you
Absolutely.
define an Indian? So of course, Pakistanis do have that issue, that dilemma,
Yeah.
that conundrum, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yes.
But at the same time, the basic principles of learning, why they are being compromised, basic principles of reporting. For example, at VOA or at any other respectable news organization, you will have this at least two source policy.
Right,
That
exactly.
unless and until two credible sources verify an event, a
Exactly.
statement, you are not supposed to go out on the air and broadcast it. And that's what we do here.
Right.
And we make sure that it's okay to be late, but it's bad to be wrong.
Right.
But so I'm talking about these principles. It's okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, the state has a responsibility to define itself,
Mm-hmm.
and they're probably doing a good job, bad job. That history will judge them.
Right.
But what happened to the main basic learning principles and reporting principles? What is your research about that? Why we went wrong when it came to learning?
So why is our curriculum, why are our textbooks sort of not being truthful, right? And why are we not giving, as we said, multiple sources of information? I think it's partly because, we inherited this colonial education system where we have an elite education system where, in fact, students are taught, in sort of the elite private schools, the English language private schools, that there are multiple sources of information.
And they do develop some kind of a critical thinking. They read, study English
Exactly.
literature, novels, Shakespeare, and so please go.
Exactly. And so, and that elite has ruled Pakistan, right? But then we have, then there's the education for the masses, where the country did not deem it fit to give their masses an education that they really require, that develops their thinking ability, that develops their ability to recognize what's what is right and what is wrong, and it's in some sense it's a power game, right? I mean, if you're really trying.
So on the one hand, they chose for themselves and for their kids to be very critical in thinking.
Yeah,
and,
it's limited, but
right,
it's
limited,
better.
but still there. I mean,
It's better.
their children went to all these elite schools abroad,
Right.
America, London,
Right.
Europe,
Right.
and then but they chose for the masses a different system, and again, to be careful, I'm just going to use this word allegedly, tried to impose a different system on the masses,
Right.
And that created this monster.
So the monster is not. I mean, I'm not saying that the masses are going to go on to become terrorists. That's not the idea. The masses can be goaded into sympathizing with terrorists, because once you identify yourself as Pakistan, we're the victim, the outside world is conspiring against us. Muslims are good, the rest of the world is bad, and so then you think, Muslims cannot be responsible for killing other Muslims. The Taliban must not come from within Pakistan.
There has to be a conspiracy. There
It
has to be
a conspiracy. Exactly. It has to be a conspiracy. Somebody else is conspiring against us. And partly it's the fault of, again, our state, which tries to point the finger elsewhere as well. We never take the names of the terrorists. We'll always say, we'll say, terrorist elements. We'll say Dehshatgard. We'll say Intaha Pasand. We'll never actually call them by their name. So there's a desire to not look the monster in the
another
face.
thing that I've been reading on TV
Sure,
screens before
sure.
we take this short break,
Sure.
time is going by so
Yes.
fast. And it's a very good discussion, by the way. See, they're calling it khatarnak dahshatgard, dangerous terrorists, as if there are terrorists who aren't dangerous too.
Right.
So when
Exactly.
you qualify and we add these adjectives and qualifiers to, I mean, to absolute labels,
Right.
that creates a confusion in the minds of the masses.
Absolutely.
And so we'll just come
Exactly.
back after this
Very
short
great
break and continue our interesting and great discussion. Thank you. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The problem really is that we're not getting students to realize that there might be bad, bad interpretations, let's say, of religion.
Welcome back. I'm Faz Rahman and you're watching Cafe DC. Our guest today is Dr. Professor Madhiya Afzal. Madhiya, thank you very much once again. Great discussion. So we were just talking about this confusion that has been created by having these sometimes not very factual elements in the curricula.
Sure.
So please go on before I interject.
And so the textbooks, again, as I said, they don't talk about the Taliban. So they'll never say, there's good Taliban, there's bad Taliban. So it's all very nuanced. But the problem really is that we're not getting students to realize that there might be bad bad interpretations, let's say, of religion that are prompting terrorists to, while being Muslim, be bad Muslims and be killing their own. Realize that these people are from amongst us, and they are hell-bent on destroying the Pakistani state. So in interviews that I've had, I've done field work over the past year and a half. So I've both gone and visited schools, attended classes, but I've also talked to students and talked to teachers. The foremost idea that they have about the causes of terrorism is the fact that it is through foreign influences. And so saying, geopolitical circumstances, and that's, geopolitical circumstances have led to increased terrorism in Pakistan is not incorrect. So it's not that, Pakistan existed in a vacuum and created this monster, which is now attacking the state. Obviously, geopolitical circumstances have affected things, but it's not owning up to the problem that is the cause of all our denial. And so basically, the idea is really that if we pin the blame elsewhere, we pin the blame elsewhere just because we cannot fathom the fact that we are responsible, right? And so then we'll say something like the U.S. sends. So some students even went on to say, the U.S. is funding terrorists, arming terrorists. It's when you sort of distort something you may have heard in passing into such an extreme extent that you make it frankly something that makes no sense, right?
But they don't come out and give you any evidence. I mean, just as hearsay. They would, say stuff. They would write things in newspapers. They say it on the air.
Sure.
But again, going back to our previous points, critical
sure.
thinking,
Sure.
and say things when you can substantiate your assertions.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we do tend to say things which are just half-truths most of the times.
Absolutely.
Best of the times, actually.
Right.
They're just
Right.
half-truths, period. Okay, so, I mean, Pakistan is a large country. You have 4 provinces: the northern province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then Sindh, Punjab, Balochistan. So they're not exactly the same when it comes to curriculum. So where is the biggest problem in the curriculum? I mean, can you identify some areas, like which areas are more problematic than some others?
No, that's a really, really good question. So until recently, until 2010, we had the national curriculum that was the federal government came up with the curriculum, and the provinces just had the textbook boards which wrote the textbooks, and there were more variations. The Sindh textbooks were actually had a lot more hateful content. I mean, the word evil was used actually a lot more than it was used in Punjab. The Punjab textbooks were much more focused on religion. For instance, in the Pakistan Studies textbook, it really read more like an Islamic studies textbook for half of it in Punjab. So these are the old textbooks. The government has since then gone through two sort of policy changes. One is that the federal government is no longer responsible for writing the curriculum. And in fact, now the provinces have responsibility for writing the curriculum. They haven't taken up these responsibilities fully yet, so they haven't really implemented this since 2010. They're still following the federal curriculum broadly, but KPK, for instance, has started revising its previous curriculum and adding in mentions of jihad under the influence of Islamic parties. So the idea is that having it decentralized, having the curriculum be decentralized, means that some of the provinces sort of...
it depends on the government, the province.
Exactly.
If, for example, right now Imran Khan's party is in
Exactly.
KPK along with Jamaat Islami.
Absolutely.
So they will probably have more religiously inclined text or material in their books, right?
Exactly. So
as opposed to maybe Punjab or Sindh.
Exactly. So they're reinserting the material. So the ANP government and there's a third policy change that happened, which was a curriculum reform. So the ANP government had sort of made the textbooks a lot better, and in terms of hate content. And now
it's okay to have religion, but as long as you don't preach or teach hatred in the name of religion.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. And the religion context is a little bit. The reason why I mentioned this. It's definitely all right to have religion in a religious course, right? So in Islamic studies and Islamiyat, it's all right. But our minorities, the non-Muslims, also have to take Pakistan studies. So so we're teaching religion, we're teaching Islamiyat to are Christians and Hindus, right? So that is something that goes against their constitutional rights and has been written about.
So what do you suggest? Pakistan. They should have their own religion taught in those periods, in those classes, rather than...
So that's Pakistan. It's a Pakistan studies
but you're teaching
text, but you're really teaching about religion. So the first chapter actually just reads like an Islamic studies chapter, and so then you're teaching them about and you're really teaching them about that, another religion that is not theirs, right? So that's the context there. But coming back to sort of the other policy change that happened is that private publishers are now given the responsibility to write these textbooks, and while that has partly... While the idea was that these texts, the private publishers...
A private writer and a publisher will publish this book without a review?
No, there's a lot of review. Okay, so these textbooks go through a very extensive review process. There are textbook review boards that do it. But what has happened is that the quality has gone down.
Quality in terms of
just
again,
writing.
Okay, the writing
itself. The writing has gone down. In fact, even the ANP government, I have to say, the KPK textbooks had a lot less bias, but the textbooks were really badly written, the ones that I read.
Just a lot about the Urdu language and the English language.
Yes, just a lot of grammatical errors, for instance. But I mean, that's sort of an aside. But the quality has gone down because they're not getting scholars to write these textbooks. When the private publishers are writing these textbooks, they're getting sort of random people to write these textbooks, keeping costs low, earning a profit
for business reasons. Yeah.
So there have been so there are definitely provincial differences because the policies are a little bit different across provinces. But the main provincial difference, I think, is now the fact that the provinces have been given charge to write the curriculum, and so as we've discussed, some of the political the imperatives of the government in power will get into the textbooks.
So
that way.
what do you suggest? What can be done to correct this malaise, this situation?
So I think
I know it's a tough question.
absolutely,
So,
very,
but,
very, very
yeah.
tough question. And in fact, it's
I mean, based on your research,
Yeah.
based on your interaction with the masses, with the public, with the writers and everybody else in Pakistan, what do you suggest? What can be done?
sure. So there are I've been reading. There are biases everywhere. So let me preface this by saying India's textbooks, especially at the state level, have a lot of biases. Have anti-Pakistan content. We've seen biases in other contexts as well. There's a joint study that was done in Israel and Palestine, and about sort of the Israeli and Palestinian textbooks about the biases, that
about
each other, and they certainly do exist to a great extent. So Pakistan is not alone in this, what can be done is a revision of the curriculum on sort of multiple levels. One is, take out the hate content. Two, insert multiple sides of the story. We don't talk about the periods in our history, for instance, when there were Hindu rulers in the subcontinent, right? We only talk about the Muslim rulers and glorify their rule. So, give a full picture of history. So stop the omissions and sort of teach students to be global citizens, right? So we don't exist in a vacuum. There are good sides and bad sides to everyone, to us as well as the rest of the world. There's one thing to be nationalistic and be very, very proud of being a Pakistani, and I am, and you are, I'm sure, and so that's one thing. But to think that we're the only good people, the rest of the world is bad and is out to get us, right? And by the way, the rest of the world—
It's called the siege mentality. I mean,
Exactly.
You're just under siege as if all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, so for example, in one of the textbooks, in one of the most current textbooks, it says Pakistan's foreign policy is to protect the ideological borders of Pakistan. We must be friends only with Muslim countries. The relationship with the West is purely economic, based on economic reasons. And I mean, we see that mentality in the country. So I mean, that mentality needs to change. And then we really need to develop students' critical thinking. So stop the exams based on rote memorization. Have debates in class. Have discussions in class, and let there be freedom of speech. Let students realize that all their points of view are okay. It's okay to have different points of view, and let that count towards grades, right? I mean, so if you're going to only have that one exam at the end of 2 years called the metric exam or the FA exam that is responsible for your entire grade, and you have to memorize, obviously you're not going to develop critical thinking. So sort of incorporate the good elements of education that exist in the rest of the world. And there are enough educationists, who are Pakistanis, who have been educated in these different kinds of systems, who can help with this kind of curriculum reform, but nobody ever reaches out to us.
Very good. Madhya, great discussion.
Sure.
We have to end our
Sure.
program here. Thank you very much for being on this show.
Happy to be
Again, wish you all the best.
Thank you.
I hope you can come up with more solutions.
Yeah.
Pakistan does need lots of thinking, lots of introspection,
Absolutely.
and some real leadership.
Right.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for your work in the field and here as well. Thank you very much for watching Cafe DC. I'm Faiz Rahman saying goodbye until next week from Washington, D.C.